So lesson 8-4, purchase a home. So we're going to estimate closing costs, create an amortization table for a fixed rate mortgage, create an amortization table for a fixed rate mortgage with extra payments, and investigate the amortization table for an adjustable rate mortgage. So key terms, there's quite a few of them in this one. Recurring costs. So if it recurs, it happens over and over again. So these are costs that occur on a regular basis, like your mortgage. Some non-recurring costs. These are one-time costs. Your closing costs. This is a meeting with the buyer, the seller, both attorneys for each of those parties, and a representative from the lender or the bank, where the official sale of the home takes place. So this is where you sign hundreds of pieces of paper and you take possession of the home. Closing costs, these are fees that are paid at the time of the sale of the home. They are usually paid by the buyer. Sometimes you can work it into the agreement that the seller will pick up and pay for the closing costs for you. The earnest money deposit, this is a good faith deposit. Basically, it's like your down payment. It's money paid to the seller by an interested buyer to show that the buyer is serious about buying the house. So if you really like the house, usually you put a down payment on the house, and that will help you secure that. The attorney fee, these are fees paid to the attorney in return for representing them at the closing. So you have to have a lawyer there to be able to do all the legal documents for you. You can't do it on your own. The origination fee, this is money paid to the lending institution for the paperwork involved in the loan application process. So you have to pay the bank for filing all of the paperwork that they have to. Title, this is the legal claim of property of ownership. You have these also for your cars. So you also have a title for the house or the property that you're purchasing. They do what's called a title search when you go and buy the house. This checks to make sure that the current owner is legitimately the owner of it and make sure there's nothing wrong with the title, that they don't have any liens on the house, that they've been paying all of their bills and their mortgage, and nobody's looking for money from them. The points. This are extra fees charged by the lending institution for the use of their money. Each point is equivalent to 1% of the loan amount. Generally, you want a loan that doesn't have any points because that will affect your interest rate. Key terms again, origination points. This is similar to origination fees. These are collected from the buyer as a means of paying for the loan application process. Discount points. These points reduce the interest rate of the loan. They generally lower the interest rate about 0.25% on a fixed rate mortgage and 0.375% on an adjustable rate mortgage. These percentages vary depending upon the lending institution. So depending on the bank and their policy, it'll vary anywhere from 0.25% to 0.375%. Prepaid interest. Interest starts accruing or building up at the beginning of each month and continues throughout the month. Prepaid interest at the closing is the amount of mortgage interest due to cover the time from the closing date to when the first mortgage payment is due. So if you close on your house on April 14th, you have to be responsible for the interest from April 14th until when your mortgage is due the next month. So you're always really a month behind with your mortgage. Arrears, this means the manner the interest occurs throughout the month before it is paid with the mortgage payment. So arrears means behind. You're behind in your payments. Transfer tax. This is a fee that is charged for the transfer of title from the seller to the buyer. So as you purchase it, when they transfer the title over, you have to pay a tax on that. The amortization table. This is a listing of the unpaid principal, the monthly payment, the amount allocated to paying down the principal, and the amount allocated to interest. So it breaks up for you what you still have left to pay on the principal, what your monthly payment is, and where that monthly payment is going. What amount is going to principal and what amount is going to interest. The initial rate. This is the beginning rate of an adjustable loan. An adjustment period, this is the period between rate changes in an adjustable rate mortgage and ARM. A loan with a 1-year adjustment period is known as a 1-year adjustable rate mortgage, which means that the interest rate and the monthly payment may change at the end of 1 year. So it could go up, but it could also go down at the same time. So adjustable rate mortgages aren't really the greatest because, again, you have to account for that change in interest rate. Hybrid ARM, or an adjustable rate mortgage, this is a combination of a fixed rate period of time with an adjustable rate period of time. A 3-to-1 hybrid adjustable rate mortgage indicates that the initial interest rate is fixed for the first 3 years and then there is an adjustment period every year thereafter for the life of the loan. So the first 3 years it stays whatever you started out as, and then every year after that it can change. So some things for you to think about. What will the American Dream cost you? What are some recurring and non-recurring costs that you are responsible for now? Now, I know a lot of you don't have bills, but some of you are driving, some of you have cell phones. Think about what you do pay for now. What do you pay for every single month, and what do you pay just a one-time deal? Why is it important for a prospective buyer to have a title search? So if you want to buy the house, why is it important that you have the title search done? Remember what title search was, looking to make sure that the previous owner or the current owner is legitimately the owner. Why is that important? What are some financial responsibilities that are paid in arrears? So what are some things that you pay after you've already accrued money on them? So you need to go ahead and finish these in your notes as well as on a separate sheet of paper because you're going to turn them in. Example 1, Leah and Josh are buying a $600,000 home. They have been approved for 7.25% APR mortgage. They made a 15% down payment and will be closing on September 6th. How much did they expect to pay in prepaid interest at the closing? Okay, well, first thing we need to do is determine the amount that Josh and Leah borrowed. Well, they are putting 15% down, so the remainder that they're going to have to be responsible for is 85%. So since they made the $15,000 down payment, they owe 85% of the loan. So we take and multiply the $600,000 by 85% or 0.85, and we end up with $510,000. Okay? The next piece that we need to do is that we need to know that their payment is due on October 1st. It's always due the first of the month. So at the time, they will prepay interest from September 7th to September 30th for a total of 24 days. So they close on the 7th, so they are now responsible from the 7th on until their first payment for interest. So it's a total of 24 days. So the amount of prepaid interest is calculated as follows. So we determine the annual interest rate by multiplying the APR times the amount borrowed. So we borrowed $510,000 times the interest rate was 7.25%. We convert that to a decimal as 0.0725, and the interest is $36,975. Now, that's not what they're paying right now. That's their annual interest. We need to figure out what they have to do in those 24 days worth. So we need to determine the daily amount. So next, after we found the annual amount, what they pay in a year, we have to figure out what it is per day. Here's where we have to do a little bit of division because there are 365 days in a calendar year. So we take the 36,975 and we divide it by 365 days, and it works out to be approximately $101.30 per day. Now, if you remember back up here, they're responsible for 24 days worth of interest. Okay, so to figure out what they do for the month that they have to pay up until they make their first payment, we take the 101.30 and multiply it by 24 payments or 24 days. So they have to come up with $2,431.20 for the arrears interest. So what they owe from the time that they closed till the time that their first mortgage payment is due. So check your understanding. How much will be charged in prepaid interest on a $400,000 loan with an APR of 6% that was closed on December 17th? So here's a little bit of a shortcut for what we just did. If we take the loan amount times the rate, divide that by the days in the year, then multiply that by the number of days left in the month. So if they closed on the 17th, their first payment is due January 1st. You need to go ahead and finish this in your notes as well as on a sheet of paper. Use that formula up there that I gave you to help you solve this. So example 2, Leah and Josh know that they will have to bring their checkbook to the closing. What might they expect to pay in total at the closing? So a general rule of thumb is anywhere from 2 to 7% of the purchase price is what you're going to have to pay in closing costs. So the purchase price of the home, if you look back to example 1, was $600,000. So we need to find 2% of that. So we're going to take $600,000, multiply it by 2%, remove the decimal 2 places. So we have 0.02 times $600,000. So 6 times 2 is 12, and we add on 3 zeros. So we end up with $12,000. Now we need to do the same thing for 7%. So 6 times 7 is 42, add on 3 zeros for the percent there, and we end up with $42,000. Check your understanding. Shannon had to make a down payment of 15% of the selling price of her house. She was approved for a $340,000 mortgage. What range of cost might she expect to pay at the closing? Well, again, anywhere from 2 to 7%. In this particular problem, we need to find the purchase price before the down payment, because this is what her mortgage is. That's not what the purchase price was. She put 15% down. So we need to take the value of her mortgage and divide it by 85%, because that's what she actually has to pay. So when you take 340,000, you divide it by 0.85, you're going to get an answer. So you need to find the range of closing costs. You need to finish this piece, so you need to take the $340,000, divide it by 0.85, get the amount that she purchased the house for, and then find the range, so 2% to 7%. You need to finish that as well as do it on a separate sheet of paper. For example 3, Trudy and Tom have been approved for a $300,000 15-year mortgage with an APR of 5.75%. How much of their first monthly payment will go to interest and principal? So here's that pesky formula again that you all love so much. Monthly payment is equivalent to the principal times the rate divided by 12 times 1 plus the rate divided by 12, all of that raised to the 12 times t, all over 1 plus r divided by 12 raised to the 12 times t, and all of that minus 1. Okay, so p is principal, r is your rate, and t is time in years. So here's our steps. We're going to calculate the monthly payment, we're going to calculate the monthly interest, and we're going to subtract the monthly interest from the monthly payment. So for example 3, I'm going to continue here where I have a little bit more room for you. So we're going to fill in all of those pieces. The principal was $300,000, the rate was 0.0575, and the time was 15 years. So I went ahead and substituted those in. You need to do the same, and on your calculator, plug those in. Your monthly payment is $2,491.23. Step 2 was to find the interest that they pay in a year. So again, it's the principal times the rate divided by 12. So the interest is $1,437.50. That's again per month. Subtract the monthly interest from the monthly payment, and you end up with $1,053.73. So the monthly interest was $1,437.50, and the monthly principal amount right now was $1,053.73. The check your understanding question, what percent of the monthly payment went to principal and what percent went to interest? So to do this, you're going to take the monthly principal, which we just found on the last slide, divide that by the total monthly payment, which we also found on the last slide. And then to do the interest, you're going to do the same piece, the total monthly interest divided by the total payment. So you need to do those two. Remember, you're finding the percent, so you need to multiply each of these answers by 100. You need to finish this, as well as do it on a separate sheet of paper, please. For example 4, how can Trudy and Tom get an accounting of where their monthly payments will go for the first year of their mortgage? So how will they know what's going to principal, and how will they know what's going to interest? We talked about this in the key terms. They need to complete an amortization table or an amortization schedule. This is what one would look like. So it tells you what the principal is, it tells you the rate you are paying, how long is the loan, and the number of payments that you'll make in a year. So it starts with the balance, tells you the monthly payment, and it breaks down for you what is going to interest, what is going to principal. Here's the new balance of the loan. And then that transfers over here, and then it goes through all the way down. So here's what they do for the first year. Okay? The check your understanding. Adding a sum cell to the bottom of the monthly payment towards interest and towards principal columns use the following totals at the end of the first year of payments. So payments for 12 months, they've made $29,894.76. Interest that they've paid in those 12 months is $16,911.38, and the principal is $12,983.39. At the end of the 12-month period, what percent of the principal has been paid off? So we need to take the principal paid divided by the total principal and multiply by 100. Please finish this question both in your notes as well as in a separate sheet of paper. Example 5, we're going to go ahead and skip this question because it deals with Microsoft Excel. If you want to try it, I will give you extra credit points for this. The check your understanding. Examine the loan summaries below for each of the two situations outlined that we in the previous example. How much interest and loan time was saved by making the extra $100 in payments toward principal each month? So instead of just paying what they were supposed to, they paid an extra $100 every month. So here's what that works out to be. Take a look here, and you'll notice that the total extra payments without the extra payment obviously was nothing. But over the course of the loan, they had $16,900 extra. So you need to find the differences here. In order to answer this question, you need to find the differences between these two pieces here. And that will get you how much they saved, how many payments they saved, and how much they saved with principal each month. So find the differences between this one, and finish that in your notes, please, and on a separate sheet of paper. Example 6, we're going to go ahead and skip as well. And they check your understanding, we're going to skip that as well. So that brings us to the end of 8-4.